Jake Morrison pushed his cleaning cart down Corridor 12 for the third time that day. The wheels squeaked on the polished metal floor. 3 years he'd been doing this. 3 years of mopping floors, fixing broken panels, and being invisible to everyone who mattered. The Galactic Naval Academy sat on Kara Station, spinning slowly in the dark between stars. Thousands of cadets trained here. Most of them weren't human. The Vorith looked like walking tigers with 4 arms. The Kelzan had blue skin and 3 eyes. The Ether were these floating crystal beings that hummed when they talked. Dozens of species, all training to become officers in the Coalition fleet. And Jake? He cleaned up after them. He didn't mind. Actually, he preferred it. Every morning at 0500, he'd wake up in his tiny quarters down in sublevel 3 where the crew lived. The rooms nobody wanted. He'd grab breakfast from the automated dispenser when the cafeteria was empty. Then he'd get his card and start working. The cadets never looked at him. To them he was just part of the station. Like the air recyclers or the gravity plating. A human doing human work. Menial labor. The kind of job that didn't require thinking or skill. That was exactly what Jake wanted. He'd learned which corridors were quietest. Which times the training halls were empty. How to slip through the station like he wasn't even there. He had it down to a science. Wake up, work, eat, sleep. No conversations. No attention. No questions. The academy was massive. It trained the best and brightest from across the Coalition. Future admirals walked these halls. Future commanders. The ones who'd lead fleets and make decisions that affected billions. The trophy hall displayed their achievements. Championship banners from combat tournaments. Plaques honoring top graduates. Holographic displays showing famous battles. Jake was cleaning that trophy hall when it happened. He'd been working on a gravity panel near the back wall. The thing had been glitching for weeks, making that section of floor feel weird to walk on. He had his tools spread out, his collar loose because the station always ran hot in this section. Just another repair job. Just another invisible day. Then Draktar came through. The Vorith cadet was huge. Nearly 7 feet tall, covered in orange and black stripes, 4 muscular arms that could probably bend steel. He was walking fast, clearly late for something, not paying attention to where he was going. He slammed right into Jake's cart. Tools went everywhere. Jake stumbled backward, arms windmilling to keep his balance. His hand hit the wall. His cleaning uniform collar shifted to the side. Draktar started to walk away. Probably was going to just leave without apologizing. That's how it usually went. But then he glanced back, maybe feeling a tiny bit guilty. His eyes went wide. All 4 of his arms froze mid-motion. Jake saw where the Vorith was staring. His neck. The left side just below his ear where the collar had pulled away. It was old and faded, done in black ink that had turned slightly gray over the years. A serpent coiled tight around a dagger, its mouth open showing fangs. Around the serpent were 13 stars arranged in a circle. Simple design. Nothing fancy. But anyone who knew military history would recognize it instantly. The mark of the Terran Void Reapers. Jake's heart started pounding. His hands moved automatically, pulling his collar back into place, covering the tattoo. But it was too late. Draktar had seen it. The cadet's expression changed from shock to something else. Curiosity? Fear? Respect? Jake couldn't tell. Draktar didn't say anything. He just stood there for maybe 5 seconds that felt like 5 hours. Then he started walking away. Slowly. He looked back twice over his shoulder, those alien eyes trying to reconcile what he'd seen. A janitor. With that tattoo. Jake stood alone in the trophy hall, surrounded by scattered tools, his heart still racing. His hand unconsciously went to his neck, pressing against the fabric covering the tattoo. 3 years. 3 years of careful planning. 3 years of keeping his head down and being nobody. 3 years of peace. And now it was over. He knew what would happen next. Draktar would talk. Cadets always talked. Word would spread. Questions would be asked. People would start looking at him differently. They'd wonder. They'd investigate. Jake started picking up his tools, hands shaking slightly. He forced himself to breathe slowly. In and out. Stay calm. Maybe it wouldn't be that bad. Maybe Draktar wouldn't say anything. Maybe he didn't actually know what the tattoo meant. But Jake knew better. The Vorith were warriors. They studied military history like humans studied breathing. Draktar would know. And if he didn't know now, he'd find out soon enough. Jake finished the gravity panel repair on autopilot. His mind was already racing ahead, thinking through options. He could request a transfer. Maybe get assigned to a different station. Or he could just disappear into the civilian sectors. Change his name again. start over somewhere else. But running never really solved anything. It just delayed the inevitable. He pushed his cart out of the trophy hall and headed back to storage. The corridors felt different now. The cameras mounted in the corners seemed to watch him more closely. The cadets passing by seemed to notice him for the first time. 3 years of peace, gone in 5 seconds. All because of an old tattoo he couldn't remove. A mark from a life he tried to leave behind. A reminder of things he'd done that still gave him nightmares. The Void Reapers were supposed to be gone. Disbanded. Forgotten. But some ghosts don't stay buried. By the next morning everyone knew. Jake could feel it the moment he stepped into the main corridor. Cadets were looking at him. Not through him like before but actually at him. Small groups huddled together, talking in low voices that stopped when he walked past. Some pointed. Others just stared. The Void Reapers. That's what they were whispering about. 20 years ago, during the Schism Wars, humanity had created something terrifying. Elite special forces units that operated in the darkest parts of space. They didn't fight like normal soldiers. They were ghosts. Shadows. They'd slip onto enemy dreadnoughts through airlocks nobody knew existed. They'd eliminate warlords in their own command centers. And then they'd vanish like they were never there. The Void Reapers were the best of them. Or the worst, depending on who you asked. 53 confirmed operations. Hundreds of high-value targets eliminated. Fleet movements disrupted. Entire battle plans destroyed before they could begin. The enemy feared them so much that just the rumor of Reapers in a sector would cause panic. Then the peace accords happened. The war ended. And humanity made the Void Reapers disappear. Officially disbanded. All records sealed under coalition intelligence protocols. The operators scattered to the wind, their identities classified, their service files locked behind encryption that would take 100 years to crack. But cadets loved legends. And the Void Reapers were the biggest legend in recent military history. Now they were all looking at Jake, wondering if the quiet janitor who fixed their gravity panels was one of those ghosts. Commander Vrex heard the rumors by midday. He was Kelzan, which meant he had 3 eyes and skin the color of deep ocean water. He taught advanced tactical operations and didn't believe in gossip. But he believed in facts. He sat in his office and pulled up Jake Morrison's personnel file. The basics were there. Human male. Age 47. Employed at Kara Station for 3 years as maintenance technician level 2. Performance reviews consistently rated as satisfactory. No disciplinary issues. No complaints. But then Vrex started digging deeper. Employment history before Kara's? Blank. Education records? Blank. Military service? The file showed a single line. Classified Coalition Intelligence Authority Level 7. Vrex leaned back in his chair. Level 7 classification meant you needed clearance from the Coalition Security Council just to know the classification existed. He'd been an instructor for 12 years and had never seen a Level 7 lock on anyone's file. He tried running Jake's biometric data through the military database. The system denied his request 3 times, then locked him out completely with a warning about unauthorized access attempts. Whatever Jake Morrison had done before becoming a janitor, someone very powerful wanted it to stay hidden. Draktar couldn't stop watching Jake. The human was working in the engineering section, replacing power couplings. Normal, boring maintenance work. But Draktar noticed things now that he'd never seen before. The way Jake positioned himself. Always near a doorway. Always with a clear view of everyone in the room. Never with his back exposed to open spaces. The way he moved. Quiet. Efficient. No wasted motion. Like every step was calculated. The way his eyes constantly scanned his surroundings. Tracking people. Noting their positions. Even while he worked, part of his attention was always somewhere else. Other cadets started noticing too. A Vorith named Krell mentioned it during lunch. The janitor moves like a hunter. Like my grandfather who served in the border wars. An ether named Shimmer, 3 added, I observed him for 1 hour. He never once failed to notice when someone entered or left his vicinity. That is not normal for maintenance personnel. The whispers grew louder. During afternoon combat training, a cadet named Torque decided to test the rumors. He was human too, tall and muscular, top of his class in hand-to-hand combat. And he didn't like the idea that a janitor might have been more of a soldier than he'd ever be. Jake was walking past the training hall when Torque called out. Hey Morrison. Question for you. Jake stopped. He didn't turn around immediately. First, his eyes flicked to the exits. Then he checked who else was in the hall. Then he turned face neutral. Yes, sir? We're talking about basic training, Torque said, loud enough for the 30 other cadets in the hall to hear. You know, the program we all went through to earn our place here. You ever do anything like that? Or did humans just give you a mop and send you to space? A few cadets laughed. But Draktar didn't. Neither did Commander Vrex, who'd stopped at the entrance to watch. Jake smiled politely. The same smile he always used. Friendly. Harmless. Forgettable. Probably not, sir. I don't think I'd make it through your basic training. Looks pretty intense. Probably not, Torque repeated, grinning. Yeah, that's what I thought. Jake nodded and started to walk away. But Vrex saw what the cadets didn't. The way Jake had positioned himself during that conversation, angled so he could move in 3 different directions instantly. The way his weight stayed on the balls of his feet, ready to react. The way his eyes had measured torque, calculated threat level, identified vulnerabilities, all in the span of 2 seconds. That wasn't a janitor's body language. That was decades of combat instinct. The kind of training that gets burned so deep into your nervous system that you can't turn it off even when you want to. Vrex pulled out his communicator and sent a message to the Academy Security Office. Run a deep background on maintenance tech Jake Morrison. Use whatever resources necessary. The response came back in less than 5 minutes. Request denied. Subject file protected by Coalition intelligence. No further queries permitted. That night, the station's central AI detected something unusual. An encrypted message, heavily encoded, bouncing through 17 different relay points to hide its origin. The message left Kara Station at 2300 hours. The AI couldn't crack the encryption. But it logged the transmission, flagged it as suspicious, and filed a report. Someone on the station had just told someone very far away that Jake Morrison was here. And whoever received that message started moving immediately. The diplomatic vessel arrived on a Tuesday morning. It was sleek and black, covered in ceremonial markings that glowed purple against the metal hull. The kind of ship that announced importance before anyone even stepped off. Ambassador Thelrock of the Corvian sovereignty. That's what the official notice said. He was coming to discuss trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Standard diplomatic business. The Academy scheduled a formal assembly to welcome him, mandatory attendance for all cadets and staff. Jake saw the announcement and felt his stomach drop. He knew that name. 20 years ago, Thelrock wasn't an ambassador. He was Fleet Commander Thelrock, leading the Corvian 7th Battle Group. 3 dreadnoughts. 50 support vessels. 30,000 troops. They'd been pushing deep into Coalition space, winning every engagement, unstoppable. Until they weren't. Jake and his team had infiltrated the flagship through a waste disposal port. 12 hours inside enemy territory. They'd eliminated the entire command staff, wiped the navigation computers, and destroyed the communications array. By the time they escaped, the fleet was blind, leaderless, and fractured. The Coalition forces moved in and crushed them. Thelrock survived. Barely. He lost his entire command. Lost his bondmate who'd been serving as tactical officer. Lost everything. And now he was here. The assembly was held in the main auditorium. 2,000 cadets, 300 staff members, all standing in formation. Jake stood in the back with the other maintenance crew, hoping to blend in. Just another face in the crowd. Thelrock walked onto the stage. He was Corvian, which meant he looked vaguely reptilian, with green-gray skin and golden eyes that could see in multiple spectrums. He wore formal diplomatic robes, but Jake could see the military bearing underneath. The way he moved. The way he scanned the crowd. A warrior pretending to be a diplomat. The Academy Commandant gave a boring speech about cooperation and friendship. Thelrock responded with an equally boring speech about shared futures and mutual respect. Everyone applauded politely. Then Thelrock's eyes swept across the crowd. And stopped. Locked onto the back row. Onto Jake. Jake saw the recognition happen. Saw those golden eyes widen slightly. Saw the ambassador's hand clench into a fist before he controlled himself. 20 years. But Thelrock remembered. The assembly ended. Jake tried to slip out with the crowd, but a security officer stopped him. Jake Morrison? Ambassador Thelrock has requested your presence at a private dinner tomorrow evening. 1900 hours, Diplomatic Suite 7. The officer said it casually. Just delivering a message. But everyone nearby heard it. And they all knew what it meant. A reconciliation dinner was old Coalition law. A way for warriors from opposing sides to settle old grudges legally. It was technically voluntary. But refusing a direct request from a foreign dignitary? That could cause serious diplomatic problems. And if Jake accepted, well, Corvian dueling protocols allowed for personal combat under specific circumstances. All legal. All official. One way or another, Thelrock could get his revenge. The Academy administrators spent the next 6 hours in emergency meetings. They couldn't refuse the request without insulting the Corvian sovereignty. But they couldn't just send a janitor to potentially get killed by a foreign ambassador either. The whole situation was a nightmare. Jake spent those 6 hours in the maintenance bay trying to work, trying not to think. Draktar found him there after dinner. The Vorith cadet wasn't alone. He'd brought 5 others. A Kelzan named Petra. 2 humans, twins named Cole and Blake. An ether called Resonance. And a small Tricary named Pip who barely came up to Jake's waist. "We know who you are," Draktar said. Jake kept working on the power coupling in front of him. "I'm a maintenance tech." "Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison," Cole said. "Call sign Serpent. Void Reaper Team 7. Jake's hand stopped moving. 17 confirmed operations, Blake added. 53 high-value eliminations. 7 fleet disruptions. 3 planetary defense networks compromised. "The strike on the Corvian 7th, Petra said quietly. "That was you, wasn't it?" Jake set down his tools. Looked at each of them. 6 young faces staring at him, waiting for answers. "Why are you here?" Draktar asked. "On this station. Cleaning floors. Fixing panels." "Why?" Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I got tired of killing. Came here to clean up messes instead of making them." "You saved billions of lives," Resonance hummed. "The war ended 2 years after the Corvian 7th fell. Military historians agree that was the turning point." "I killed thousands to save billions," Jake said. "You think that makes it easier? You think I don't see their faces every night?" The cadets didn't have an answer for that. "Thelrock will kill you," Pip said. His voice was high-pitched, childlike. "The dinner is a trap. Everyone knows it." "Probably. Will you run?" Draktar asked. Jake shook his head. "Running just makes it worse. I've been running for 3 years. Look where that got me." "Then what will you do?" Jake picked up his tools again. "I'll go to the dinner. I'll face whatever comes. And maybe if I'm lucky I'll finally stop running from who I used to be." "We want to help," Cole said. "There's nothing you can do." "There's always something," Blake insisted. Jake looked at them again. These kids who'd grown up during peacetime. Who'd never seen real war. Who thought combat was something you did in training simulations with safety protocols. "You can't help with this," he said gently. "But I appreciate the offer." Draktar's forearms crossed over his chest. "We're not asking permission." Despite everything, Jake almost smiled. Cadets never do. Jake stood in the diplomatic suite the next evening wearing his cleanest work uniform. Thelrock sat across from him at a table meant for 2. No weapons visible, but Jake knew the ambassador had probably 3 hidden on him. That's what Jake would have done. "You remember me?" Thelrock said. "Not a question. I remember everyone." The ambassador poured 2 glasses of something purple. "My bondmate died that night. Shara was her name. We'd been together 17 years. Jake said nothing. There was nothing to say. "I've thought about this moment for 20 years, Thelrock continued. "Imagine what I'd say. What I'd do. How I'd make you pay. I understand. Do you?" Those golden eyes burned. "Can you really understand what you took from me?" "No," Jake admitted. "I can't. But I can tell you I'm sorry it had to happen." "Had to?" Thelrock leaned forward. "You chose to do it. I chose to end a war. Your fleet was killing thousands every week. Someone had to stop it." The ambassador's hand moved toward his belt. Jake tensed, ready to flip the table, go for the nearest window, anything. Then Jake spoke quickly. "There's another way. An old coalition law from the First Contact Wars. Combat Substitution Clause, Article 73. Thelrock's hand stopped. "I'm listening." "I'll train a volunteer cadet team. 72 hours. They'll attempt an impossible infiltration mission right here on the station. Breach the Academy's command center, steal a specific data core, and escape without getting caught. If they succeed, your honor is satisfied. You got your revenge by proving my methods can be beaten. If they fail, I submit to whatever judgment you want." It was risky. But it gave both of them a way out without blood. Thelrock considered this. The command center is protected by the best security in coalition space. Top graduates guard it. Military-grade AI monitors every corridor. You think 6 cadets can breach it? I think if I train them they have a chance. The ambassador smiled slowly. "Then I accept. Let's see if the legendary serpent still has his fangs." Training began at 0600 the next morning in an abandoned cargo bay on sublevel 8. Draktar brought his team. The same 6 who'd confronted Jake in the maintenance bay. First lesson, Jake said. Everything you learned in the academy is about fighting fair. We're not going to fight fair. We're going to fight smart. He spent the first 6 hours just teaching them how to observe. Really observe. Not just looking at a room but understanding it. Where are the cameras? What are the blind spots? How do people move through the space? What patterns do they follow? Humans are predictable, Jake explained. So are most species. We're creatures of habit. Security guards walk the same routes. They check the same corners. After a while they stop actually looking. They just go through the motions. Cole raised his hand. So we wait for them to get complacent? No. We make them complacent. We give them exactly what they expect to see until they're not really seeing anymore. The next 12 hours were brutal. Jake made them crawl through maintenance ducts until their muscles screamed. Made them memorize guard rotations down to the second. Made them practice moving in complete darkness using only sound and memory. Blake complained after hour 15. This is impossible. We haven't slept. We can't think straight. Good, Jake said. You think real operations happen when you're rested and ready? You work exhausted. You work hurt. You work scared. That's when you find out what you're actually made of. He taught them things the academy never covered. How to read body language to predict what someone would do 3 seconds before they did it. How to use psychology as a weapon. How to make people look away just by positioning yourself in their peripheral vision. The human brain filters out most of what we see, Jake explained during hour 30. It has to, or we go crazy from information overload. Security systems work the same way. Too much data, so they prioritize. We're going to be the data they don't prioritize. Petra asked, how did you do this for years? How did you live with it? Jake was quiet for a moment. The Void Reapers were good at killing because we understood what was worth dying for. We became monsters so others wouldn't have to. Every mission we carried the weight of knowing that our actions would save lives. But that weight. He looked at each of them. That weight never goes away. That's why units like us should never exist again. Then why teach us? Resonance hummed. Because you need to understand the cost. You're training to be officers. Someday you might have to make decisions about units like the Reapers. About what you're willing to sacrifice to win. I want you to know what that sacrifice really looks like. By hour 70 they were ready. Exhausted, pushed past every limit but ready. The mission began at midnight. 6 cadets against the Academy's best defenses. They didn't use force. Didn't hack systems. Didn't fight guards. They used misdirection. Pip created a distraction on level 5 by triggering fire alarms. While security responded, Cole and Blake moved through maintenance corridors wearing stolen technician badges. Draktar and Petra positioned themselves as lost cadets, asking guards for directions, occupying their attention at key moments. Resonance, being crystalline, reflected light in ways that confused the optical sensors, creating blind spots. And Jake? He watched from the maintenance bay, tracking their progress on a stolen tablet, heart pounding. They reached the command center at hour 71. Retrieved the data core. And escaped. When they arrived at the cargo bay, dirty and exhausted and triumphant, Jake felt something he hadn't felt in years. Pride. Thelrock had watched the entire operation from the security monitoring room. Every moment. Every move. When the cadets returned with the data core, proving they'd succeeded, he sat in silence for a full minute. Then he sent a message to Jake. Meet me in observation deck 3. Alone. Jake arrived 20 minutes later. The observation deck was empty, just walls of transparent aluminum showing the stars outside. Thelrock stood with his back to the door, staring into space. 72 hours, the ambassador said without turning around. You took 6 untrained cadets and taught them to breach military-grade security. Do you understand how terrifying that is? I understand. Thelrock finally turned to face him. I spent 20 years hating a ghost. 20 years imagining the monster who killed Shara. The shadow in the dark who destroyed everything I'd built. Jake waited. Let him talk. But you're not a monster, are you? You're just a man who did terrible things because someone told him it was necessary. Thelrock's voice was tired. I came here wanting blood. Wanting to watch you suffer the way I suffered. But watching those cadets tonight, I realized something. The person I've been hating doesn't exist anymore. Maybe he never did. The war made us all monsters, Jake said quietly. The only question is whether we can be something else now. Thelrock nodded slowly. Shara would have liked you. She always said the best warriors were the ones who hated war the most. He pulled out a small ceremonial blade from his belt. For a moment Jake tensed. But Thelrock just held it flat on his palms, offering it. This is a Corvian honor blade. It means my challenge is withdrawn. What happened between us stays in the past. Jake took the blade carefully. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just don't waste the second chance you're getting. Thelrock walked toward the door, then paused. And Morrison? Those cadets worship you now. That's a different kind of responsibility. Don't screw it up. Then he was gone. Jake thought that was the end of it. He thought he could go back to maintenance work, maybe with a little less hiding. But he should have known better. Coalition intelligence arrived at 0800 the next morning. 2 agents in dark suits, the kind of people who didn't smile and didn't make small talk. They found Jake in the cafeteria and sat down across from him without asking. Jake Morrison, the first agent said. She was human, short dark hair, eyes that missed nothing. We need to talk about your situation. I don't have a situation. You exposed your identity, the second agent said. He was Kelson, blue-skinned and serious. Your presence here is now a security risk. We're offering you 2 options. Return to classified work with a Black Ops unit. Or accept relocation to a civilian colony under a new identity. You have 6 hours to decide. Jake's appetite disappeared. And if I refuse both? Then we classify you as a rogue operative and handle you accordingly. The woman's voice was flat, empty of emotion. 6 hours, Morrison. They left him sitting there, staring at his cold breakfast. The cadets found out within the hour. Station gossip moved fast. By 1000 hours, Draktar was organizing something Jake never expected. A petition. It started with the 6 cadets from the mission. Then their friends signed. Then their instructors. By noon it had 200 signatures. By dinner, 500. By the next morning, 816 students, instructors and staff members had signed a formal petition to the Academy Commandant. The petition argued that Jake Morrison the teacher was more valuable than Serpent the operative had ever been. That what he'd taught 6 cadets in 72 hours was worth more than any classified operation. That the Academy needed him. Draktar delivered it personally to the Commandant's office, with all 6 cadets standing behind him. The Commandant was a Vorith named Krelvan, old and scarred from 40 years of military service. She read the petition in silence, then looked at the cadets. You understand what you're asking? She said. You want us to employ a former Black Ops operative as an instructor. Someone trained to kill. Someone with a classified past. We want you to employ someone who understands the real cost of war, Draktar said. Someone who can teach us not just how to fight but when to fight. And more importantly, when not to. Krelvan considered this. Then she picked up her communicator and called Coalition Intelligence. Jake never found out what she said to them. But 3 hours later he received a message. The Academy was offering him a faculty position. Asymmetric Warfare Ethics and Practice. It was unprecedented. Unorthodox. Probably against a dozen regulations. But it was real. Jake's first class was scheduled for the following Monday. 200 cadets packed into Lecture Hall 7. Word had spread. Everyone wanted to see the legendary Serpent teach. Jake walked to the front of the room wearing instructor's uniform instead of maintenance coveralls. His collar was open. The tattoo on his neck was visible to everyone. He looked out at all those young faces. Different species. Different backgrounds. All of them watching him, waiting. The stories about the Void Reapers are true, he began. His voice was steady. Clear. We did the things you've heard about. The infiltrations. The eliminations. The impossible missions. All of it happened. The room was completely silent. But today I'm not going to teach you how to be a Reaper. I'm going to teach you something harder. I'm going to teach you the difference between winning battles and winning peace. Because here's the truth they don't tell you in combat training. Any fool can learn to kill. Any fool can master weapons and tactics. But it takes real wisdom to know when not to use those skills. It takes courage to choose peace when war is easier. He paused, letting that sink in. I spent 15 years being the monster in the dark. I was good at it. But every person I killed, every mission I completed, it took something from me. And even though those missions saved lives, even though the war ended, I still carry that weight. Every single day. Draktar sat in the front row, already taking notes. The other 5 from the mission were scattered throughout the room, listening intently. So that's what we're going to study in this class, Jake continued. Not how to be monsters. But how to be warriors who never forget their humanity. How to be officers who understand that every decision you make has consequences that will haunt you. and how to be leaders who choose peace whenever possible, and war only when absolutely necessary. He looked at each of them. Welcome to Asymmetric Warfare Ethics. Let's begin.